I think wherever I travel, I always find something that inspires me and something that's unique, and I think that's one of the great things about my job is that we have projects and we source materials from all over, so there's always some takeaway.
My big travel color shock was when I went to Copenhagen 2 years ago and expected everything to be sort of a continuation of Hammershøi's dream, this beautiful, neutral, natural palette. And a friend had suggested that I go to the Thorvaldsen Museum, and I walked in there and almost lost my mind because I said, this is it, you know, to look at the sequencing of all of these rooms looking onto one another. It's almost like an optical trick, but these are actually like sort of a parade of rooms, a gallery down, and to look at all the relationships that these dark colors had with one another, that to me was a very eye-opening sort of proof of theory.
I always try and look for a different design hook. So I always look for something else with the client or something, maybe it's a piece of art they own or something else that's your kicking off point. So there will be a colour reference in there, but I try and steer away from the obvious following of trends. I mean, that pale pink colour that we've all been seeing so much of recently, they're now calling that millennial pink. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the death knell. I am never specifying that again, ever.
Kind of the approach that I have with clients, you have to see what they're comfortable with, and maybe those color palettes or those walls are saved for particular rooms like powder rooms or a cozy library, and they tend to be more comfortable with that mood in those rooms. We do things, for example, you know, we'll take an antique armchair and cover it with a contemporary fabric and give it a new personality. So I think that there are just ways that you can put a new spin on it that makes it feel relevant, but it's not too scary for the client. And we always try and incorporate those in our projects.
I hope I'm not following trends. I hope I'm setting them. You know, and my clients would be horrified if we were just going to give them something that then was kind of over in 2 years from now. Because, you know, it's not like going into a shop and buying a jacket. You know, if you're doing up a house, you're spending an enormous amount of your hard-earned money on that. And people want to feel that it's something that they can live with and love and enjoy. And you know, their friends are going to come there and they're going to entertain and they'll make a home and a family for years to come. I think it's really important.
No, definitely. I agree. I think it's important to make rooms that feel lasting, that aren't, you know, they aren't all about trends. I think it's fine to incorporate trends. And I think that trends are ultimately successful if you really pay attention to other principles of design. The scale of the room is good. You know, the materiality is interesting. You can look back at rooms from the 70s and, you know, bygone decades, and they still look relevant and they look beautiful, but it's because they were well designed and they might have incorporated a trend. But I think ultimately it's just being mindful that you're making good design decisions when you are incorporating those trends.
You have to reflect what's going on and the energy that's present. And we eventually settled for red. Coincidentally, we were shooting a project in the Aero Saarinen space at the TWA Flight Center for another project. And I said, okay, once again, is it livable? We started doing a study on red rooms, and there was the new Ritz bar in Paris is red, and we sort of arrived at, you know, important things happen in red rooms. There's sort of that whole red carpet treatment or whatever, you know, you're made to feel special when you're sitting in a red room. Well, we kept seeing, like, you know, The Handmaid's Tale, I don't know if that's played over here, those red capes were like just arresting. And then I think even the curtains in Twin Peaks, which came back, again, was so significant. And we just kept seeing in fashion, everything, even that Baywatch babe red bathing suit was red.
We find that clients are very kind of into their Pinterest and their house, but actually we try and steer them away from that. Well, what's happening with Pinterest is because what it does, it's all based on an algorithm, so the more you select certain things, the more it feeds you the same stuff. So actually it's very hard to establish any sort of originality. So what we tend to do is we tend to get the images, and then once we kind of know where the client's going, we dump the whole lot and start again. And we don't go back to Pinterest to look for them.
The interesting thing about all of these, you know, social media platforms and various programs is that they're obviously empowering the client to a new level, and it's just, you know, as designers, we're constantly having to try harder to find new and interesting things and ways to impress them and bring a point of view and perspective when they're constantly exposed to so much. And I think that's a big challenge for our industry. you know, a lot of the designers, they're sourcing in a way that it's very much online. They're finding things online, which is great, but the importance of going out and seeing things and sitting in them and touching them and experiencing them, we don't want to lose that.
Right.
Our firm is known for creating interiors that are glamorous, that are curated, that are unexpected. I think that we always try and have something, you know, that is an element of surprise, that sparks conversation, that makes people, you know, talk. We do like color. We do a lot of color. We embrace color, but we also do neutral. I mean, the reality is we do a variety of projects, but I think ultimately we're sort of known for that New York glamour, that cosmopolitan look, and that's what we do a lot of all over the world.
What we do as a practice is we try and see the world through the eyes of each individual client. So every single job we do and every interior we produce is completely different to everything else we've ever done. So we don't have a house style at all. I mean, some of the photographs, so you saw that very colourful slide, which was one of my projects from up in North London, and the next one with the amazing silvered de Gournay wallpaper is also one of my projects, and the looks are completely different because they're so tailored to those clients. So, you know, in terms of a house, we don't have a house style. We just have a design philosophy, I suppose.